Okay, everybody, let's take it from the top.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Hi-ho, everybody. Welcome back to D Plus Us Weekly, the show where we talk about Disney Plus exclusive shows episode by episode, week by week. I'm your host, Griffin Tennell, Griffey D-Pad, and with me as always is the amazing, the fantastic, the marvelous Mr. Mitch George. How are you doing tonight?
What happened?
Scrolls happened, Mitch.
You mean bad CG fights happened?
You mean probably one of the best fight scenes in the episode happened? I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about the other one. Let's talk about Secret Invasion episode 6, titled Home, the finale for Secret Invasion. Of course, folks, this is going to be full spoilers for the show, every episode, all of Marvel. So go watch that episode, come right on back, because there's no way to talk about this show without A, spoiling the show, and B, literally just spoiling pretty much the entirety of the MCU, considering how much this relates back to Endgame.
Pretty much.
So go check that stuff out. While you're around, hey, check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@DPlusUs, where you can check out this show, our normal show, where we just put an episode up about Muppets Mayhem. The
That
Muppet
was fun
show
to watch on Disney Plus.
Yeah, surrounding the Electric Mayhem, the house band for the Muppets. Go check that out. Check out our video essays of a new one eventually coming soon. Griffin has the time to actually sit down and finish a thought. And so much more. Also check us out on TikTok, Twitter, I refuse to call it X. Everywhere we are at.
X gonna give it to you.
I hate that logo so much.
It's the worst, and they keep tinkering with it, which makes me think that Elon Musk is just sitting there every day looking at Photoshop and just zooming in on pixels and making changes to individual pixels.
Well, they can't copyright that logo, so they have to change it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see.
The other thing too, to call out at the top here, the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes are still ongoing. Go support your favorite actors and writers and the hard work that they're doing to fight for their rights to, better working conditions. I saw a great video today of Bryan Cranston calling out Bob Iger. So good on you, Bryan Cranston. That was a great speech.
Fantastic speech. Yeah, we are getting some wins on the union side. Not necessarily yet in the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes, but more of the unions in the U.S. are winning. So that is good, because a win for any union is a win for all. So shout out to everyone doing great, especially the Teamsters UPS win. That is in progress at the time of recording. It's a little weird times and all that. Anyways, let's talk about Secret Invasion episode 6. Mitch, I feel like this episode, you were obviously down on this episode and I'm high on this episode.
The President of the United States declared war on a fishing village in Norway. Why?
That was the best part of this episode to me, was the president's reaction.
Stupid. That was the stupid,
that is the point.
And I mean, this is going to be the catalyst. I was convinced that Armor Wars was going to be a Justin Hammer return. Armor Wars is just going to be Don Cheadle versus the U.S. government, because that was really fucking stupid. Sorry, I'm swearing real early in this episode. And the fact that Armor Wars is now just going to be that kind of is, letdown for me at least.
We didn't know what Armor Wars was going to be to begin with. It was all theory, anyways. We still don't know what Armor Wars is going to be, technically.
It's going to be Don Cheadle against the U.S. government based on what happened here.
I mean, hey, guess what? The U.S. government is evil.
That's also very true.
Because here's the thing. Here's the thing about this episode, is a lot of people don't like this episode. I can see why people don't like this episode. There's parts of this episode I really don't like, and I think this episode, like the entire series, is absolutely a mixed bag. Where there's some really great moments, and there's some stuff that really reminds me why I love the MCU. Pretty much anything with Olivia Colman was fantastic, as always, with this show. But for me,
I will say the hospital scenes were probably the highlight for me of Olivia Colman's Fallsworth and Nick Fury doing their thing, and the reveal that Gaia was actually Fury in Russia was kind of neat.
For me, it's that line.
I should have seen it coming, but I'm dumb and didn't see it coming.
It's that, yeah. I mean, that was the first time I'd actually been surprised by a twist in the show.
Yeah.
Which is saying, that's a whole other conversation we need to have. But with this episode being a mixed bag, that moment of Ritson doubling down was the like kind of a bit more realistic twist than I was expecting, and I was actually really happy that they did that. Because of course the president's going to be an absolute douchebag about this. Of course he's going to be horrible.
But he's a douchebag towards the wrong people. Like that's the thing, is like it just seems uncharacteristic for what we've seen of Ritson to this point to say, oh, okay, Rhodey was close to me, it was the Skrulls. So let's murder every alien that's on Earth ever.
Mitch, let me show you the history of the United States presidency.
You know what? Also very, very true, given I've not lived in the U.S. The xenophobia there is too real. So I suppose this is on
Fury,
brand, I guess, for the U.S. government.
Fury, I guess technically Gaia, but Fury has a fantastic line in this where it is easier to save 8 million lives than to change their hearts and minds. And that is ultimately...
Okay, you're
that
kind
is
of
the
turning
point
me
of the
around
show.
on parts of this episode.
Like, I agree that, hey, guess what? This is yet another Marvel show that ended with a big CG fight. The CG fight looked dope as hell, and it will fight anyone that disagrees with me.
It was some of the best CG we've gotten on Disney Plus. I will give you that. I do feel like the entirety of the budget of this show went to 3 things, and that is the salaries of Nick Fury, getting all of the cameos that they did, and some of the guest stars and stuff like that, and this one single fight.
Hey, you know where the money for the show did not go?
The advertising budget or the opening title sequence.
I was gonna say their writers. Pay your fucking writers, Disney.
Yeah, also that.
No, I really did like. I actually like a lot of the writing in the show, and I really did like this twist at the end. Obviously, it's setting things up for future consequences, and it puts us in a couple of really interesting opening spots for the future. Particularly with Gaia being this massively powered Super Skrull, and us possibly having this story with her and Olivia Colman's character. I love this dynamic between them. It's like, I'm gonna use you, you're gonna use me. Let's not mess up where Fury and Talos did and make this about love and friendship. Let's just make this a business agreement.
Sonya Fallsworth, by the way. We don't have to keep calling her Olivia Colman.
I'm going to continue to call her Olivia Colman, but
I know, it's like calling Sam Jackson Sam Jackson.
Sam Jackson can be Nick Fury. That's easy because Nick Fury is Sam Jackson and Sam Jackson is Nick Fury. We've been over this.
Gun to your head. What's Martin Freeman's character's name? Because he shows up in this. Full name.
I just know him as Agent Ross.
He's Martin Freeman. Everett Ross.
Everett Ross.
But
no, I think we had some interesting...
so you're turning me around on certain aspects of this episode. That being said,
I wanted to get that out before I let you loose. No, go for it. Go crazy.
Ultimately disappointed in what this series did because it ended as just a jumping. Like, okay, here's your TikTok. Okay, timestamp.
Wait, hold up. Okay, go for it.
Secret Invasion is the Thor: The Dark World of Disney Plus MCU shows.
God damn it, you can't keep doing this, Mitch.
Yes, I can. Because this show, on its own, existing on its own at this point in time, is, I feel, largely disappointing. From beginning to end, there was more misses than hits, unfortunately. But there are consequences of this event that will play out in future properties, in the Marvels, in Armor Wars, in whatever Gaia shows up in. The fact that this show's got me invested in these 2 original characters, Sonya Fallsworth and Gaia being the MCU's Super Skrull, but not being a bad guy, at least not a bad guy yet, but could be a bad guy, this weird double agent life, is going to be really interesting to see play out. But within the confines of what we know now of Secret Invasion, this sucks. Just sucks. This is bottom tier MCU for me.
Oh, this is perfectly mid tier MCU for me. This is classic MCU mid tier for me. Because it's, first off, I have fully divorced this show from the comics. Like, let's start from point one. You have to at this point. You gotta judge it based off of what's in the show, not what our expectations were. Which means that this was never going to be
set. I feel like my expectations were set appropriately because they initially came out and said, this has nothing to do with, like, we're using this as a title. It doesn't have anything to do with the comic events. I'm like, all right, I'm on board.
They made it clear on that one, like
Fury, Skrull, buddy cop thing, spies, cool. The vibe was great, and then this finale, it just totally threw it out the window for me.
See, I didn't like
really
the vibe.
Disappointed about.
I disagree that the vibe was great. I think this show marketed a vibe that they really wanted people to think it had, and it had a completely different vibe. Not to say the vibe was bad. I think the vibe very much works for the show. But they wanted to set this up to be the spy thriller where you're constantly second-guessing everything. And that's just not what this show was. The show sets all of its cards on the table from the very beginning. Tells you everything you need to know. You can tell all the twists for this show, except for the Fury one at the end with Gaia, from the minute you start episode 1. And that is not good for this kind of show. Like, it very much tries to have its cake and eat it too with the Rhodey twist, which I just think did not work in any way, shape, or form for me in this show.
See, that's one thing that I liked about this show was the Rhodey twist. Because I think it sets Rhodey up to be in a very interesting place going into Armor Wars of, okay, based on some internet sleuthing, and I will also, I'll admit to having gone down this rabbit hole, the hospital gown that Rhodey is wearing when he's recovered is the same hospital gown from Civil War. Has he been in captivity since Civil War? He missed the blip. He missed Tony dying. Armor Wars is setting up to be something really, really interesting in the MCU.
But we're not there yet. And we're not going to be there for a long time at this point.
Yep.
Especially with Disney's response to the strike being we're just going to try to delay things so people will still promote their shit. Not understanding how a strike works, by the way. Which is kind of hilarious.
Yeah, the number of projects that will get canceled is going to extend. It's going to extend beyond that. Bad Bunny, Sony, Marvel villain wrestling movie that got canceled.
Things you like are going to get canceled, and that is good.
Was it I want to say El Muerto.
Yeah, El Muerto. You're right.
El Muerto.
But no, so I don't think the Rhodey twist worked at all for me. It was very much they were too soft on it. They needed to go hard one way or the other for me. They needed to have this massive twist near the end, or they needed to tell us, oh, Rhodey has been a Skrull since XYZ. Give us it definitively, not skirt around the idea so that you can try to make sure that those emotional moments in the past still have their weight, but they do still have this weight. It just didn't work for me.
It works for me just because there isn't enough time to explore Rhodey's story. Like, if Rhodey had been... There's a different version of Secret Invasion where the Skrull Rhodey is uncovered very early, and we get more of this background, similarly to what we got in Black Widow or in, was it the opening of, I want to say it was one of the openings of one of the episodes of Hawkeye with Yelena, of how she experienced the blip. I need that flashback of Rhodey being captured, the captivity, like everything that he like.
So that's what I say when I say they needed to double down one way or the other. They either need to make it a like last minute, like we learned this at the end of episode 5, or we need to learn this immediately and have that backstory. Because these episodes are short. It has the time for additional content within these episodes. That is a storyline I think that they should have expanded more on. That said, the government stuff...
I understand why they didn't, with this being a largely Fury-focused project, and knowing that there is a Rhodey-focused project, which is a weird character to focus on. But after the conversations between Skrull Rhodey and Fury in this, the discussions of race and what it means to be a black man in America, I think Armor Wars could be something really interesting if they double down on some of those themes and don't just make it Rhodey's come back from captivity.
See, I don't care about Armor
everything
Wars
he has
yet.
to discover.
That's my issue here. Is I don't care about Armor Wars yet. I care about Secret Invasion because it's out. We have this.
Yeah.
This is the one where we had definitive information on it. We don't know what the plot of Armor Wars is. We know it was a TV show and now it's a movie. That's all we know.
That's all we know.
But I also want to talk more about the government side of the MCU, because the government side of the MCU largely has sucked. And it will continue to suck because it's not interesting. I think we've gotten closer. I think the closest we've gotten to it being good was in The Falcon and Winter Soldier. But the politics side of the MCU, the side that they really want to make interesting, they continue time and time again to not make interesting. And I think part of that is just the nature of superhero comics. I mean, we saw this in, I want to say it was Iron Man 2, where the government is trying to enlist Tony's suit as a weapon for the U.S. military. And it comes around in 3 as well. And right off the bat, we're making fun of them because that's what we should be doing. It is a bit on how inept they are. And that is the most interesting it's been since then for me. I don't think we've ever had anything interesting. I think we have a chance when Thunderbolts comes out.
I think we actually have a chance before that, and that's with Captain America: Brave New World, carrying on a lot of what we saw of the government side of things from.
Is that
Falcon
the one
and Winter Soldier.
is that the one where Harrison Ford is Thunderbolt?
Yes.
That
And that's
that
just
is
'cause
what
I
I
love
meant.
Harrison
That is
Ford.
what I meant. I was just thinking of Harrison Ford as Ross's
I
president.
do think Thunderbolts and Captain and Cap 4 are the two opportunities to make this interesting ahead of Armor Wars. But again, my biggest concern, or my biggest flaw that I've felt from having watched this show, or the largest drawback, I guess, of this show, is it doesn't seem to, like there's very little that's conclusive, other than the death of Talos and Maria Hill, where, okay, this is just like other Disney Plus shows have felt like they told a cohesive story. Maybe they were a launching pad for another property, but this show specifically is like, okay, so this show is now going to be a catalyst for things that happen in the Marvels and Captain America and Armor Wars and who knows what else, probably Thunderbolts with Ross, right? Like there's all of these threads that this is now kicking off for future projects, but judging it by its laurels of the story that it told, there wasn't enough here that was interesting for me as a viewer to say this definitively beginning to end was a good narrative to be told in the MCU.
Yeah, I think this was a satisfying ending. I don't think it was a good ending. Like, I think the ending is narratively satisfying enough of the villain is beaten, which, by the way, quick aside, I'm sorry. Felt really weird watching Gravik in this episode after having seen Barbie.
Yep, 100%. But also
fantastic.
No. Like Kingsley Benadir is going to do phenomenal things in Hollywood. I'm certain of it.
Hire him
and
for everything.
His roles here and in Barbie are indicative of that.
He's a fantastic actor.
He is a fantastic actor. In this episode, he got nothing. That monologue, like the back and forth between him and Gaia as Fury, is just him screaming, "You made me kill people. You made me kill people. This is why I'm messed up. You made me kill." Like, there was so much potential in Gravik as a villain. There are layers there that could have been explored. Again,
I think we
having
got
more
already
flashbacks,
last
more
week,
interstitials, more understanding of Gravik's ideologies and why he's pushing this. Whereas this episode, it just boiled down to, I need powers because I need to be better than you, and I want to watch you die of radiation poisoning while I give myself superpowers.
I mean, yeah, that totally fits in with after his mental break last week.
I guess, but it just became villain of the week for me, of like, okay, he's doing what every other villain did. He had a breakdown, and now he's just going to be a dick.
See, I think I would agree with that when you look at this week by week like we do, but looking at it as a whole, last week we saw him have this break and him proceed to continue downward this week until he is at that rock bottom where it is the mission no longer matters. It is only I am better than you, which is admittedly a tired trope within villains. I'm never going to disagree with that, but it is still something that I think is just, it is narratively satisfying. It's not great, but it does satisfy the ending of that storyline.
I disagree there, just because I think this character and the way that Kingsley portrayed Gravik had so much potential for it to just become what it did at the end, of him falling back on traditional villain tropes we've seen in the MCU and in other hero stories, other superhero stories, is disappointing enough for me, because I could see the potential there of like a Thanos level villain in terms of sympathy for him and understanding where he's coming from, why he's doing the things he's doing, if it didn't just evolve to me punch you now. You know what I mean? I
see what you're saying. I'm still in a disagreement, but hey, that's why we have the podcast.
Exactly. It's one of the first times we've disagreed on anything on this show. It's been, what, a year and a half?
Mitch, we disagree a lot. We just kind of glance over it for how often we agree.
We agree to disagree. Where it's like, yeah, I understand your viewpoint, but here's what I think. Whereas this is very much like,
we've also changed each other's minds on the show. So I mean, we've gone all over. You
did for me a little bit. I still am like, if I had to put this on a scale, like this is an okay, like it's not a bad, it's not bad by any stretch, but it's just, it's okay. whereas everything else has been good, sometimes great. So it's disappointing for me to end on this low note.
There are some things this show really did nail, and I do want to give it its props where it does do well. I don't think there's a single bad action scene in this show. I think every action scene they've had in this show has been at least good. We've had good chases. We've had good hand-to-hand combat. I do think the powers were well used and fun to see the stuff. Even if Drax's arm on Gaia looks absolutely ridiculous.
It was bizarre.
It was bizarre in the best way for me, because like that is the Super
one
Skrull
part
thing.
of that I will disagree with is it is impossible to frame actors of the age of Ben Mendelsohn and Sam Jackson in a way that makes chase scenes look menacing or threatening in any way whatsoever. Nothing against the two of them. It's just I felt the same way watching Captain Marvel with a de-aged Sam Jackson who was in his 70s or 60s, I guess, late 60s, early 70s, filming that movie of, okay, I get it, but also you too old to be running like that. Like,
suspension of disbelief only goes so far.
And it's difficult when like looking at these actors being like this, like the chase scenes for me fell flat.
See, I thought it was fine because it's Fury's Fury. But also, I mean, the one major chase scene for this is at the very beginning of the show, and it's not Fury. So,
well, there's also that like sewer chase scene with Ben Mendelsohn chasing Gaia, and I was just like, And Fury running through the streets in Russia when they do that explosion at the end of the first episode was like,
Was that wasn't even a chase though? He was just getting away, and like that was.
I guess, but it's like
no one was
getting away for
moment.
Sam Jackson at his age looks like what he should be looking like when he's trying to run. So
that's the other issue I had with this show, which was they really went back and forth on whether or not Fury still had his mojo. That was a very big plot point for this show. Was like Fury doesn't have it anymore, and they really that's another where it's like I feel like they tried to have their cake and eat it too. Where it's like, oh, he does, but he doesn't. Like, no, you got to go one way or the other. Either he doesn't,
yes,
and it is him struggling his way through this, or he does.
You want to see him dealing with a bum knee because he's at the age that he is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
that, or because it's comic bullshit and they can do it, and they have. Fury at the end is like, I've had it all along, motherfuckers. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like, I have been playing you because I'm Nick Goddamn Fury. And, like, I wish they doubled down on that stuff. That's the thing for me about this show, where it's like every decision they make feels
like a half step.
It's halfway to greatness. Where it's like, you fully commit to these decisions, and you can do this. It's fantastic. Like, they fully commit to the Super Skrull idea at the end of this. And it's great. Like, I genuinely think that is a great moment.
It's going to make sense in the context of the MCU moving forward with Gaia.
That moment where Nick catches Gravik's hand and Gaia comes out, and then they have all these powers, is fantastic. The list of powers they have here, fantastic, because
all right,
go
through your list. Go through your list. I know you want to.
I want to, but we don't have it. It's mostly funny to me just how many non-powered people there are on this list. Or how generically powered people there are on this list.
Rocket doesn't have powers.
Because Ghost has powers. Captain
Soldier,
America.
not powers. That's muscle memory.
Captain America, we'll get back to. Corvus Glaive, powers. Thanos, I guess technically powers. Outright powers.
Yeah, he's an eternal titan. Like he's got juice.
But Thanos' powers are the same as Captain America's without the inspiration.
Which is the same as Thor's.
Which we'll get to. Proxima Midnight powers, Captain Marvel is the big one, which was awesome. I loved it.
What is Proxima Midnight's powers? Because all we did was see her use a stick.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
I know she has powers, but we never actually see
Captain Marvel,
I'll
Gamora. Gamora, who doesn't really have powers, is just a badass.
Gamora also does not have powers.
Mantis powers, Cole Obsidian doesn't really have powers. He's just a gigantic being. I guess that alien race could have some sort of power that I don't know. Drax, same deal.
Okay, so going back to Proxima Midnight, powers: super strength, super durability, superhuman speed, agility, stamina, reflexes. So literally just Captain America.
And that's what most of these are. Korg, I guess, because he's a rock dude. Ebony Maw has powers. Frostbeast has powers. Abomination and Hulk are the same powers, but it's funny to me that they include both of them and then deliberately show Abomination's ears on a scroll, which is not that much different than the normal scroll.
They're just the same ears.
Black Panther powers, I guess. One of these is just Chitauri.
But the Black Panther powers are related to, like, does it change them on a biological level? Or
yes.
I thought it was just the okay.
I
know it's like the herb and stuff like that, but
Valkyrie and Thor, which is iffy at best.
It's super strength, speed, reflex. Same stuff as Proxima.
They refuse to call Groot in this, which I do think is kind of hilarious. They continue to call him Flora Colossus.
Yeah.
And then Winter Soldier. So yeah, so many of these powers aren't actually powers, but I do love that they committed to, here's this long list of names, and a lot of these names, frankly, you are not expecting. Like, looking at that list, I was not expecting...
I wasn't expecting Black Order.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting the Black Order. I wasn't expecting Valkyrie. I wasn't expecting Mantis. I wasn't expecting
Okay,
half
so
this list.
there are two uses of powers that I thought were absolutely phenomenal. One was the use of Ebony Maw's telekinesis. That was really cool. And the second one was Gaia using Mantis's abilities to put Gravik to sleep. That was cool.
I love that, and I love how it ends on Captain Marvel.
I
Captain
love
Marvel
how it ends there, but also we know they have extremis powers. So you blow a hole in his chest, great. He's just gonna heal.
Well, you can heal if you still have a heart. If you don't have something beating,
you can recover stomach tissue. We see Skye do that in season 1 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with Kree DNA. Dude's pumped with Captain Marvel DNA now. He can figure this out. Like,
Mitch, I don't think we need to like sit here and discuss the anatomy of aliens.
Also, very true. Although, did you see that that Senate hearing today on UFOs with that whistleblower?
Yeah. They just like casually were like, "Yeah, we know about the existence of aliens." The day the Secret Invasion finale comes out.
I don't know how much pull Bob Iger has in the U.S. government, but after the finale of this show and what happened in the news today, I would not be surprised if he was at the top.
Hey, certain politicians are concerned that Disney owns the government, apparently. So, cough, cough.
No, that's just the one in Florida who's gone cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Who's in a car accident?
I wouldn't wish ill on anyone, so I hope he does recover from that. Car accidents are no joke.
Oh yeah, he was totally fine.
Okay, then fuck that guy.
Yeah, the headline was one of those like complete non-stories of like in car accident, totally okay. So I'm like, so why do we give a shit? But
because
yeah,
they need to stay in the news while he's in the hospital for a couple of days for observation.
But to my point about doubling down, to bring it actually back to the reason why we're here today, not to talk about that douchebag. That's where I really feel like Marvel in general, I feel like that's the point we're at right now, where Marvel has wanted to play things safe. I feel like 90% of the Disney Plus shows have been that way of, oh, we're going to play this a little bit safe. And a couple of episodes that haven't have been where we've seen either misses or it's shining really well. Like, nothing about every episode except for the finale of WandaVision is safe. The use of Kingpin and Hawkeye was not safe. And depending on who you talk to, it was either a hit or a miss. But then you see stuff like the use of the Flag Smashers in Captain America, and that was extremely safe, and it was kind of a miss. And I can continue going, but eventually we're going to get to Loki where I disagree with the entire world. So we're not going to go there. I feel like Marvel's getting there. I feel like Marvel's learning that, look, we got to double down on our stories here. Because, yeah, we might miss once in a while, but it will leave so much more credibility to the projects, to everything. Like I keep saying, I don't think we're in a superhero fatigue state. I think we are a little bit, but I think that's more of a movie fatigue than anything else.
I think it's just a blockbuster fatigue state, or it's a streaming service fatigue state. Like a content fatigue.
It's not even that for me anymore. It's the standard of quality has gotten higher. The expected standard of quality for a good show, a good superhero show especially, has gotten higher. And I think Marvel is realizing that. I think they're going to make some adjustments and come through with their future projects. But guess what? Some of these projects were already done. This was already done, filmed, and I'm assuming mostly edited.
Yeah.
For a little while. So I think we're getting there. I think it's fine. I don't think it's a fantastic ending, but I don't think it's a horrible one.
Again, this is the Thor: The Dark World of Phase 5. There's nothing to be embarrassed about with that because it's going to be made better by future projects. But in isolation, for me, it's a miss.
So how do you feel then about the entire show with everything? Are you considering the entire show a miss in isolation or just this finale?
I'm going to say the entire show. There were moments I really liked, but the way that it beefed the landing, for me at least, leaves a sour taste in my mouth. I do feel like I need to go back and rewatch to get a better sense of the end-to-end narrative, but the finale landed in such a way that I'm soured on the entire thing at this point. Maybe that changes with a rewatch, maybe it doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't. I'm gonna give this a couple days, and then I'm gonna go back and rewatch all of it to see how I feel before actually putting this into like my Marvel rankings.
I've got some flights coming up. I'm downloading this thing and I'm going to watch it the way it was meant to be watched. On my phone, sitting on a plane with someone reclined in front of me in a way that makes me feel really awkward to be sitting on a plane for X number of hours.
I got one more thing and then we will wrap up the show. Mitch, I want to give you an update. I called it. This was in fact the shortest episode of the season.
I hate you, but also
it was the shortest episode by 33 seconds.
But also, like, this feels like it could have been a 15-minute epilogue on the last episode. It didn't have to exist as its own episode.
That's the thing about this show is it feels like there's an entire season we're missing. Or
at least 2 or 3 episodes.
I don't know, with that call to action at the end by Ritson, it does really feel like there's an entire season of this show missing. Which again,
I was surprised when this didn't end with a tease like Loki that it's getting a season 2, to be honest.
I will say though, shout out to this not having a post-credit scene.
I kind of like them. That's a Marvel thing to do. So
it's absolutely a Marvel thing to do.
I'm disappointed that the Nick Fury focused Marvel project is the first one, at least that I'm aware of, that has had. Well, I guess technically Endgame had no post credits.
Mm-hmm.
But
Endgame had no post credits. Hawkeye was not important to the future of the story.
It wasn't, but it still had it. And the fact that the Nick Fury led project, where Nick Fury was famously the first post credit scene, and it kicked off this whole post credit scene phenomenon in Hollywood, didn't get a post credit scene.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I respect it a lot actually now when they don't have it, when they want to bookend the show with XYZ.
I mean, the Gaia Fallsworth scene could have very easily just been post credits, but they just snuck it into the regular episode.
I mean, Ms. Marvel did something similar, right? Where it's like, wasn't the whole mutant scene before the credits?
It was, but it also had a post credit scene of the switcheroo between Kamala and Carol.
And I think that's the difference between here and now is we don't know where Skrulls are going to pop up again in MCU, which I would be.
We do. They're going to show up in the Marvels. The Saber base is staffed by Skrulls.
Well, I mean, in this regard of the Earth fighting Skrulls, hating Skrulls, hating each other.
I do think that the plot of Captain Marvel it ended on Fury and Carol need to find a home for the Skrulls. I think this whole power entanglement thing is going to be the catalyst to getting Monica and Kamala as a part of the Marvel story. I do still think the core plot of that movie is Carol trying to find a home for the Skrulls. Or having, like, we get the tease here at the end of this negotiation that Fury's going back for between the Kree and the Skrull. I do think that is going to be part of the plot of the Marvels, and that the accuser that we see, I can't remember the name of in the trailers, is essentially going to poo-poo the whole negotiation and cause chaos and explosions and hammer things and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know where it's going to be. Maybe that's what this. Maybe Secret Invasion was just one long prelude to the Marvels.
It was a Marvels trailer, basically.
A Marvels trailer with none of the actual Marvels in it.
Exactly.
Just Carol referenced over and over and over again. Yeah. No, I think I'm not entirely sure that they'll pop up in the way that like I want them to, and that I think we'll get like the peace talks and stuff. But I am interested to see where the actual like xenophobic side of this goes, where the hate speech is going. Like obviously we know President Ritson is leaving. The line from Fury of "that's some one-term president shit" was freaking hilarious.
Again, I think we're going to see the fallout of that in Captain America, right? I feel like they're setting up Ross to be the president of the United States. Just from a storyline perspective with that character, and also the conversation here with Ritson, it does feel like a lot of this is probably the xenophobia is going to bubble to the surface in that production, and it'll be interesting to see where that falls. Because originally the leaked plot of that movie of what was originally Captain America: New World Order is it's all this xenophobic right-wing bullshit on the internet, this fear-mongering through right-wing media and propaganda. Which another thing about this episode, they just kill off Christopher McDonald, Did I get the right name? Yeah, Christopher McDonald. They
Yeah.
just kill him off on the set of his show. And like you've got people running around as vigilantes just randomly shooting people on the street. Like, what the fuck?
Mitch, let me introduce you to the world of United States politics.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm Canadian, where it's like we have gun crime, but it's like
It's really bad
people
down
arguing
here, man.
over a Timbit or something. No,
That was the scary thing about
it's a
this
problem
ending,
here,
is
but
this
it's nowhere
ending-
near the problem or epidemic that it is in the U.S.
I think maybe
don't
that's
mean
why
to
this
make light
ending
of
hits
that.
a lot more for me than it does for you. Is like just how
I'm not American.
realistic that ending is for us down here. But alas, we've talked this to death. We're at the end of the show. We should wrap this up, folks.
Well, actually, hold on one second though. The one thing that is unrealistic about that whole thing is we see the vigilante shoot or gun down the British Prime Minister, and Britain has famously had really strict gun control laws, and for someone to just randomly have a handgun at an event that involves the British Prime Minister seems far-fetched, at least for me, from a geopolitical standpoint. But again, suspension of disbelief. It's a comic book show. I can't get
Yeah, I'm not going to
hung
try
up on
to
those nitpicky
get
details.
into geopolitical situations on.
No, that's what the
that's fine.
Captain America 4 review will be all about.
That's what our next special presentation will be on is Disney and geopolitical. No, we're not about to do that. That is way above my.
That would be an interesting rabbit hole to go down.
Mitch, I gotta do something light after that last one.
All right, maybe I'll start researching the geopolitical nature of Disney and its influence within the U.S. government.
Anyways, yeah, check out our other stuff. Thank you very much for hanging out with us. We aren't sure what our next one's going to be based off of just timing and whatnot, but our next weekly show will probably be Ahsoka. We love hanging out with y'all here, so let us know what you want to see from us, whether it's new stuff coming out, or, hey, you got any old Disney Plus exclusive shows that are somehow still on the platform that you want us to talk about before they disappear forever?
Rest in peace,
us
Big
know.
Shot.
Rest in peace, Big Shot. Rest in peace, Mysterious Benedict Society. Not Disney Plus, but rest in peace, Grease Rise of the Pink Ladies.
That was Paramount?
That was Paramount, yeah.
I want to say, yeah.
Yeah, you know
We
that.
have that here, but I haven't subscribed to it. I thought about subscribing when Halo came out, and then I read the reviews. I'm like, all right, I don't have to pay for this.
Yeah, we got plenty of other stuff we are working on here at the podcast. We won't be going over any new movies until the strike is over, or until the unions change how they want to go about things. Obviously, support the unions. However, they would like you to support them. Don't just listen to random internet idiots like us. Go follow the union, see what they're asking of people. And support
Heck
that way.
yeah, the actor who played Billy Maximoff is out picketing with the SAG-AFTRA striking
Heck
force
yeah.
in LA. Let's go.
Mitch,
Let's
if
go,
people
Billy.
want to keep up with us, where can people find us?
At D plus us on all the places. That's, the Elon Musk hellscape. That's YouTube. That's Instagram. That's TikTok. It's wherever you want to find us, we're there at D plus us.
Go check us out there. Check out other stuff, and we will see you all next time. But until then, have a magical day.
Excelsior.